A condition precedent is an uncertain event that must occur before a party's promised performance becomes due. If the event given in the condition doesn't come to fruition and the condition hasn't been excused, the promisor doesn't have to perform. Often it's unclear whether an agreement creates a condition precedent. A promisor who doesn't want to perform his end of the deal will be tempted to argue there's an unfulfilled condition precedent. That's the scenario in Chirichella versus Erwin. Sellers try to weasel out of a real estate transaction by arguing that the agreement sets up an unfulfilled condition. The Chirichellas signed a contract to build a new home in Kettering, Maryland, in the spring of 1971. They also decided to sell their existing home in Silver Springs. A few months later, the Chirichellas signed a contract to sell the existing home to the Erwins. The parties used a standard real estate form contract. The contract had a fill-in-the-blank provision to specify the closing date. At closing, the parties finalize the transaction, and ownership of the property passes to the purchaser. Here, to specify the date for closing, the Chirichellas and Erwins initially wrote in, quote, "by October 1st, 1971, or sooner," unquote. The parties later amended the provision. The October 1st deadline was struck, and instead the parties wrote, quote, "coincide with settlement of new home in Kettering, approximately October 71, unquote. The Chirichellas were confident their new home would be ready by that time. October 1971 passed. The new home wasn't ready until June of 1972. Even though the builder declared the new home ready, the Chirichellas refused to close, complaining of some 84 defects in the construction. Because the Chirichellas hadn't closed on the new home, they also refused to close the sale of their existing home to the Erwins. The Erwins sued for specific performance, a court order forcing the defendant to perform the contract. Before the trial court, the Chirichellas argued that closing on their new home was a condition precedent. They claimed that the condition hadn't been fulfilled, so they weren't obligated to convey their home to the Erwins. The trial court disagreed and awarded specific performance to the Erwins. The Chirichellas appealed to the Maryland Court of Appeals.